Thanks so much for joining us today for Sundays in Song. My name's Doug Buchanan, and I'm pleased to be here with Andrew Balfour. Andrew is the composer of Ambe, which we are performing this week. Andrew, thank you so much for taking the time to join us.
It's an honor to be here, Douglas. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. I was wondering, I love the story behind Ambe, and the choir has really loved digging into it and putting it together. I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit about how Ambe came to be.
Oh, that's a really good question. It actually many journeys, as we say in Cree, is Pikiwin, which is the Cree word for journey. Um, it was first commissioned. I think it's been a while now, by Catherine Robbins at the University of Manitoba, that wanted an Indigenous song that actually was written by an Indigenous composer, but also had an Indigenous language that was pretty close to the true meaning of indigeneity. So I would say that was probably back in 2013 that Catherine approached me, and then we approached a songkeeper. His name is Corey Campbell, who's from Sagin First Nation outside of Winnipeg. He's a Ojibwe. He's a songkeeper, and he gifted me these words of Ambe, Ambe, come in, all you Shinabeg, all you two-legged creatures. It's a welcoming song. And I think in the spirit of truth and reconciliation these days, and bringing down the barriers that Indigenous and minorities, have a place in the choral repertoire in Canada right now is really important. So I was very fortunate to be able to work with both Catherine Robbins and Corey Campbell. Corey had a separate song, but what I did is I took the words that he had gifted me and set it to a choral setting that's kind of got a rhythmic setting to it, as your choristers probably know, and your audience will find out. It's meant to be welcoming for all Anishinaabe. We're all Anishinaabe. We're all two-legged creatures, regardless of color or creed, or where we're from on Turtle Island or even Mother Earth. We're all Anishinaabe. So I think that's the true meaning that Corey had gifted me. So I'm very happy they required singing, and it's my first published piece too by Cypress Music. So it's been sung all over the world now, I hope.
I went to go listen to some recordings, and it's really exciting to hear so many different choruses have taken it on, and it's wonderful to see that spreading throughout the world. I was really taken with I was particularly curious about um, if it was a different process for you having been having been gifted this music, because the um for in many situations the process of gift giving create helps to create community, and that seems very much about what Ambe is about. It's about, exactly as you're saying, breaking down barriers and
Mm.
helping people see each other. did did you find that you approached this piece differently, having been gifted these words, than you might say, to take a completely different example, to say if you had were setting a piece of poetry that you found published in a book, and you did not have a direct connection
Mm.
with that author?
Yeah, that's a good question as well. Like, I think that we as composers, we're always trying to find source and inspiration in words because that's what we do, whether it's text. It could be the Latin Mass. It could be a poem by E. Cummings. It could be a contemporary poem, or anything. It could be pretty much anything. A menu. You could really, set music, a menu to music. But I feel that I mean, I've been a composer for 25 years, I would say. Then I did a lot of sort of sacred music because I grew up with, in the Anglican church, so I knew a lot of sacred texts. But then when I started delving into my own indigenous identity, because I'm a 60s scooper, so meaning I was taken away from my blood when I was a little baby. So I've been colonized since I was 6 months old. So it's been ever since then, it's been this journey of trying to discover who I am. I'm not a language keeper. I'm Cree, actually. My identity, I identify as Cree, even though Ambe is in Ojibwe. But I guess it was an experience of just trying to learn a different way to approach text and language. I'm still learning myself. but I do feel that the spirituality and the power of the indigenous languages are so important in this mosaic because we were the original keepers of this land and we still have our language. From I mean, it's amazing we still do, but we're still singing our languages. So to hear non-indigenous choristers sing anything in indigenous languages, I think is the right direction. If it's me or other composers, there's lots of other composers that are writing in First Nations languages right now in this country, and I think that's really vital. And choirs are picking up on that, and it's important.
Well, and especially having that massed sound that people are coming in together, coming in as community
Mm.
to sing this song that is very much about community. And I think that's certainly a question that I, as a child of colonizers, had has wondered about is relationships between that language and wanting to make sure that we do right by our performance of it, and but being a part of spreading awareness about this language, spreading awareness about the message that you've created, is something that we're excited about, and excited to have the opportunity to bring this music to life among many other choruses that are doing that. I was
Mhm.
wondering the I was just wondering what are some of the other things that you're working on right now, whether it's composition. You're also an active choral conductor and have been do a lot of stuff with Dead of Winter and
Yeah.
all sorts of different things.
Oh, well, I guess like this whole fall has been back to work. I took the summer off,
Good.
and had a little bit of downtime, and now that I'm kind of back into it, my next big actually gig is next Friday on the 29th for the Colonel Hall here in Toronto, which is they do the Truth and Reconciliation concert every year, put on by Colonel Hall and the Royal Conservatory of Music. So I'm conducting five of my pieces, and one of them is going to be Ambe, actually.
That's great.
Colonel Hall's an amazing space here in Toronto. And then I'm coming to Vancouver in end of October to conduct the Vancouver Chamber Choir in a piece called Wawasiwis, which means Northern Lights in Cree. It's an oratorio that I wrote for choir and viola, and so I'm going to be able to conduct the Vancouver Chamber Choir, the excellent Vancouver Chamber Choir, one of the best chamber choirs in the country. So it's an honor. So yeah, it's full on back to work, and it feels good to be. I'm living the dream. Like 3 years ago, 4 years ago, nobody was singing. It's hard to believe that it was only that like in our lifespan that nobody was singing. So for your choir to be able to do Ambe and like this idea of welcoming people back in to the sacred circle or the sacred choral circle or whatever you want to call it, I think it's remarkable that we've bounced back from not singing at all globally to now we're back at it. So it makes
It's
me
it
makes me feel good.
Yeah, it's something that one of the things that I found that I missed the most just within the first month of COVID was the communal breath together.
Yeah, yeah,
To suddenly be aware that when I was making recordings for virtual choirs, I was not
yeah,
breathing with people, and there's something very
yeah,
basic and sacred and human about that shared breath
yeah.
that I'm glad we can participate in again.
Yeah, that's a very good point because I did a lot of recordings like yourself too, like over COVID, and it was almost impossible to sit with your headphones and try to breathe with your fellow chorister, which we take so naturally. It's like making fire. I think it's like we took it for granted for so long singing together, and then when it's taken away from us, then now we feel I think it's a little bit more special. I mean, that's what I personally feel. I don't know what everybody else, but I feel blessed to be able to be back at it and to hear all music essentially to be sung again is really important, whether it's Mozart or Beethoven or Bach or Hertz or whatever. It's all good.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for taking the time. This was wonderful to be able to talk to you a little bit about Ambe Ambe and your work at large. Thank you again for taking the time.
Yeah, thank you, Douglas. Chimagwich.